If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend Khalid Mohammed from Command 11 in Pakistan, also known as 008 in the Survival Dispatch news family. Below him, my good friend Randy Nance from back home in Texas, Combat Wounded Green Beret. And directly below me, our in-house 007, which is why he's one level down from Khalid. 008's up here, 007's down here. 26-year CIA operative, author extraordinaire, movie star. I mean, he's going to be leaving us little people soon, probably for greener pastures. You know, congratulations, Jeff.
Yeah, right.
He gets so excited. He gets so wound up.
Oh, yeah, if you believe that.
All right. So tonight, the next episode of our long war series, we're going to be discussing law enforcement being overwhelmed by complex coordinated attacks, swarm attacks across multiple cities, and essentially all first responders being pushed past their limits and therefore having to triage stuff. In other words, decide what has priority over what else. So let's get to the conflicted question, get everybody on stage over here as well while we're at it. All right, here we go. So if you're not familiar with this, conflictofthegame.com, 14 card decks with questions set in post-apocalyptic settings. 99% of the questions have some crazy question that speaks to morality, hence the name Conflicted. So here we go. You hear a noise in the back of your house and you find about 12 orphans scavenging for food in your garbage cans, or maybe javelinas in Jeff's case. They appear to be kids under 6 or 7 years old. Taking them in would diminish your supply timeline by 50%, and you aren't sure you can replenish your supplies once they run out. Plus, it would take manpower to watch over all of them, and you can spare little since everyone in your camp is constantly exhausted from hard work and rationed meals. Leaving these kids to their own fates would mean their deaths or worse. How would you handle this situation? And there we go again with the morality involved in it. So
By the way, I had 30 javelina this morning.
30?
2 herds came and converged. There almost was a fight.
Wow. Okay. So what you're telling us is you're the pig whisperer? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. They're like locusts, and I'm the field of grain.
Yeah, I knew a guy back in the day in the early 20s. Every bar we went to, he attracted them, and he was the pig whisperer himself.
Kind of pigs.
Well, you know, this is family-friendly entertainment here, so we're not going to go there. But what we will do is get into the first post of the night, and it's going to Randy. And I've got some pretty major concerns with everybody's security right now at a high level, but CBS report following Charlie Kirk's murder, the U.S. Secret Service has begun providing security for White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. And this one goes to you, Randy. Let me get everybody over on the other stage here. All right. So curious what your thoughts are on this, as far as they probably didn't do it because there were no threats in my mind. But even more concerning is this has now become a piece on the chessboard that when administrations change, they take protection away from people who are being protected by the previous administration. What are the long-term fallouts of that? What do you think, Randy?
Well, you know, I don't know. Has there ever been a White House press secretary that had security? Probably never had to, but apparently we do today.
I don't think there has.
And I think it's pretty serious. I mean, we would assume that they did get some sort of credible intelligence on a credible threat to her. And now after we just watched Charlie Kirk, why take the chance?
So I guess follow-up question to that, Randy, would be, how do you think other prominent conservatives or prominent members of Trump's team should be adjusting their, personal security protocols at this point, at least?
Well, I would say that you better do it, right? I would certainly probably not go into any open outdoor events like that. You know what I mean? They need to be in a much more confined space that you can control, instead of outdoors where somebody could be anywhere on a roof or a stairwell or where have you. I think that, they probably should put on more security. And if they don't have a very good team, they probably better up that ante and get an actual real security team, because it's serious business. Trump got lucky because he turned his head and Charlie Kirk did not. Why take the chance? Because, there's no coming back from that. And we also know that the left, or again, I don't say left, the side that hates this country isn't going to stop. So we can assume that more than likely they're going to do something else or try to elevate this even more. I'm just assuming, because that's what you would do if you were the bad guy.
Well, let me throw this out there, and Jeff and Clede, you're welcome to comment on this as well. What do you make of those two guys in Great Britain getting into the same room as Donald Trump protesters? Like, nobody stopped them from walking into the meeting room that they were in. I mean,
well, and this isn't the first time either. There's been a couple of times that people have gotten close to him lately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would, what it looks like to me, what if that's probing?
Well, if you look at it, if you look at it in DC, the Code Pink people got in the same restaurant as Trump, and now you have it happen in the UK. And while he was flying back from Chequers, where he met the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, his helicopter had a hydraulic issue, and they had to make an emergency landing.
That's right.
And that's raised a lot of concerns that, if this is moving on every level, that they're trying to take out the top leadership of the Republican Party. And if you listen to what Destiny has said, there's this guy named Destiny who is on YouTube, he's on X, and Elon Musk called him out today and said, you need to throw this guy in jail. He's making vile threats.
I think one of them, YouTube demonetized him today because of
demonetized him. Yep, YouTube demonetized him, but he needs to be deplatformed across the board.
Oh yeah, he does.
Because all he's doing is he's making threats.
He actually is spreading hate speech.
Yep, he is exactly spreading hate speech. And I don't understand why they're not taking him off the platforms. But the issue we've got right now is what's going on with the Republican Party. The president, the vice president, the secretary of defense, the press secretary, senior members of Congress have all received credible threats. Now, if you don't put in real security at this point, you're looking at a bloodbath, because on Sunday, everyone will be in Phoenix for Charlie Kirk's memorial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everyone is going to be there.
And apparently there's going to be a protest.
Yeah.
And that's the protest I'm worried about.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts there, Clede. Jeff, do you want to add anything to the conversation, at least as far as these lapses are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, the one in DC is all on Secret Service. The one in Britain is a combination of Secret Service and either the Home Office or MI5. Secret Service would have what I would imagine to be close-in security responsibility. But as far as access to the grounds and the buildings and things like that, that's on MI5. The British version of the FBI, or maybe the Home Office, but that's on them. Someone getting past them, that's 100% on them.
It's brutal, is what it is.
And you think about it, if you had a British official here and he was at a thing, you wouldn't expect his security detail to secure the city block or the building. That would be our responsibility.
Right. Yeah, good point. So let's move on to the next link. There's actually two of them here for you, Jeff. They're both related. So This one here is 2 minutes and 43 seconds long. I'll play the bulk of it just so you get context, and then there's a follow-up that goes to you as well.
I hope his wife and kids get fucking raped and murdered. A supporter of ours was sent these messages because of a comment she made on a Joey Swole post. Thought I was a peaceful leftist. Bitch, I'm so far left, I got my guns back, and boy do I have guns. Been hitting the range often. Bullseyes at 400 yards. Can't wait for the next conservative cuck to step foot in my state. Too bad Utah got to this little crybaby bitch before me or one of my guys did. I bet he was crying for his mommy while bleeding out on the floor of that little stage like the little bitch he was. I hope his wife and kids get fucking raped and murdered. We have a veteran openly saying that they are training to shoot at 400 yards for the next conservative to come into his state. This isn't a bot account. This isn't some 0 follower page. This isn't someone hiding their identity. He's open about it, and he's serious, and he's calling for the rape of toddlers.
I know trolls. Everyone has been a troller before. No one is doing that, and no one is ever joking about that. That is very serious. Anything to joke about at all.
The left likes to cancel us. Let's cancel them. Everyone wants to keep playing nice in these situations. No, I want to keep seeing more people get fired. I want to see more people getting their gym memberships canceled. This dude's been reported to the FBI already, but they're not going to be quick enough. People need to act on it themselves.
I'm also confused because aren't leftists usually no guns?
Somehow.
So let me just move to the follow-up here, Jeff. So found him. He lives in Denver. He's from Muncie, Indiana, has 3 dogs named Max, Bear, and Mia. He's a pilot and a fitness instructor, Nick Walk 421. He has scrubbed all of his socials. One of the Instas was still up, but set to private. And then about halfway through digging, it went out of commission. The Facebook for him also went out of commission. So I kind of, in some way, think that this is Charlie Kirk's legacy. He's revealing all of these nutcases.
Yeah. He's lifting the veil off of these idiots. And with this guy, what cracks me up is these people post all this vile stuff, and then they get busted. Oh, let me delete everything. They have a thing called the Wayback Machine. All this stuff is recoverable. And when people find it, they almost always take screenshots. So you can delete to your heart's content. When electrons are involved, it's almost impossible to delete everything everywhere. And when it's on social media, it's impossible to delete everything everywhere. So, yeah, he'll get his.
Yeah, I told my kids, hey, you be careful because when you hit submit, it's like out there forever. And when you delete it off yours, it's only deleted off your page. Believe me, it's still out there. It never goes away.
Nope.
Well, it's still on the servers. So it may be no longer visible to you or the public, but it's still sitting on the servers. So anyway, it's a lot of crazy people out there. Let me get to the next one here for you, Khalid. Just get it up on. Here we go. All right. So how many warnings do Western nations need? By the way, thank you, MCOM Black, for bringing this to our attention. How many innocent lives are we willing to sacrifice? WTF, 2 minutes. I'm going to play the whole thing. It's pretty revealing.
Swedes are under attack. They are being targeted and killed. This is the thanks that they get for opening their hearts and homes to Islamic migration. Last night in Belgium, a Muslim terrorist declared war on Swedes. The terrorist shot 3 Swedes who were wearing jerseys of the Swedish national team. He killed 2 of them and then uploaded a video on Facebook bragging about how now he will happily meet Allah and Muhammad as he fulfilled their prophecies. The terrorist was thankfully killed by the police. However, moments after the attack, another terrorist who is on the loose in Europe as you're watching this uploaded another video to the same Facebook page. The video was a horrific message to Arab and European leaders. I translated it, and this is what it said. This is a message to the animals of the world, ministers and presidents, kings and parliamentarians. We are saying that the Islamic State will remain until Judgment Day, whether you like it or not. You just need to know that our religion and our book are red lines crossed with blood. We are not like those who condemn on Twitter while staying in hotels. We condemn by using bombs. we condemn by slaughtering. You are the enemies of Allah. All hands that come close to our religion will be cut off. Last August, after all the Quran burnings, Al-Qaeda encouraged its followers to commit terror attacks in Sweden. And this terror attack seemingly follows the orders of Al-Qaeda. When will Europe and Swedes wake up? How many Europeans and how many Swedes are to get killed before our politicians understand the dangers of Islamism? These terrorists are not to be negotiated with. They are to be prisoned and then deported. You need to demand your politicians to put an end to this. Maybe we should start by not financing these terrorists. That would be a good start.
So, Khalid, I want to start with a really specific question for you. In your opinion, at what point does that, whether you want to call it diplomatic patience, political correctness, whatever it is, when does that line get crossed where it becomes criminal negligence towards a country's own citizens? Because this is what it seems like.
No, first threat. The first time you see a terrorist say, "I'm going to kill," that's when the line is crossed. You don't tolerate it after that. This is why I believe in the battlefield execution, because you don't let them get beyond that first threat.
That's correct.
When you give them that space, look, Chris, this is the mistake we made in Pakistan. We gave them space. When you give them space, they become emboldened and they get more and more and more foul. You put a bullet in them right there, game over. They realize that the response to their statement is death. They want to meet Allah. We will send you there with a priority ticket.
That's right.
So this relates to a conversation Cleve had previously. He's got some brilliant tactics that I don't think our attorneys in the Department of War would ever produce. I mean, let me have Randy explain it, and then I'm coming back to you, Khalid. So tell me what the process looks like, Randy, when you get in a firefight with guys and you come back and have to be debriefed by an attorney and other officials.
Well, basically what happens is they tell you what you can say and can't say, you know what I mean, about what happened. That's what attorneys do. And generally what I learned about Army attorneys is they're freaking lazy, man. Yep. All they want to tell you is it's high risk. Don't do that. Yep. I tell them, hey, pardon my French, do your fucking job. And don't tell me you can't do it. Like, and it's not just in those things, but commanders also rely on these attorneys, right, for everything that we do. And they have to weigh in. And they're always telling the commanders and us, it's too risky. Don't do that. Don't say it. I'm like, dude, go do your job. And don't tell me you can't, because we've all watched all the attorneys in DC. And when there's something illegal they want to make legal, they build a legal process to do that. So that is your job. You are supposed to help protect us, not shut us down on every single thing, because Khalid's right. And I'm a true believer that we've gotten soft in these future times, because if this would have happened centuries ago, well, there would be more crusades, right? Because the world wouldn't put up with it.
Good. Quick question. A number of GWAT veterans have specifically told me that when they went out on patrol, if they got their hands on an AK-47, they would put their AR in the Humvee and carry the AK-47 because they could shoot as many rounds they wanted to and not have to report in with, less ammo than they left with.
Because they do count your ammo. They give you your ammo, basically. And it really depends, because you also get it through your Bravo. Yes, but everybody carried AKs, and those weren't the only reasons why. That's all I will say to that.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Do you want to add anything in addition to that, Khalid?
Look, this is a mistake that we made in the war on terror. 2016, our generals here in Pakistan decided, you know what, these judges can't be trusted. We arrest these terrorists, we send them to the courts go, oh, there's not enough evidence, we need to let them go. That's the biggest mistake in the world. Our generals turned around and said, you know what, you find a terrorist, you shoot the terrorist. Don't even put him in front of a judge, because we can't trust the judges. Take him out there and then. Yeah. Once we started that practice, terrorism died in Pakistan. Then we let it go, and it came back again to fight us again, because the Taliban took over in Afghanistan, and they came at us again. Now we're back to battlefield executions.
Why are Western leaders kowtowing to this shit?
You guys have the same problem we have with bombing runs. We went in and did a bombing run in Afghanistan. Our Air Force went in, hit TTP targets in Afghanistan. Human rights, Amnesty International stood up screaming, "Oh, you killed innocents, you killed innocents, you killed innocents." I was on the front line and I said, listen, you only cry when we kill a terrorist, but you don't cry when they kill our innocents. Yeah. That's the problem in the US right now, is that you have too many human rights activists that whenever the US were to take a firm stance on something and decide they're going to go in and wipe out and turn Afghanistan into a parking lot, you will have human rights activists, Amnesty International, standing up saying, "Oh, you've committed a war crime." What war crime?
Yeah, that's insanity. So just quickly, StreamYard just brought out a new thing. If you're logged in as an admin, you'll see it, Cleve. When you hover over somebody's picture, there's expansion arrows. I got to try it to see what it does. So bear with us out there. Hopefully it doesn't kick everybody out, but I want to see what it does to Khalid's window. Perfect. So you end up getting the whole screen. Yeah, you get the whole. That's awesome. I had to do that quick little experiment to see what exactly it did. But let me go grab the next one up for Randy here. I love this guy, Steve Inman, by the way. He's freaking awesome. I'm trying to remember how long this is. Why is it? Okay, doesn't.
Well, it's club night in Brazil.
Bam.
Still, as people get clubbed on the streets.
Let me rewind that. So
it's club night in Brazil as people get clubbed on the streets here, and it looks like his woman's about to get involved, raising the helmet, and oh yeah, nothing but freaking sweet Sparta chin music. Does it really work being so stunning and so brave, only to get knocked the fuck out just like your boyfriend? This person even tries to warn this lady, you don't want to do this, trust me. Male or female, you come running after someone with a helmet, then get ready to trick or treat it, smell my feet. Like the old saying goes, Brazil isn't for beginners.
Oh, get out the way, get out the way, bitch, get out the way.
That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because we don't know really what started all this and why he knocked the guy out the first bit. But I will say, it's not like some other fights. He didn't try to then jump on the guy and start beating him to death on the ground after he knocked him out. He was going to walk away. And I'm not a proponent of hitting women, but she grabbed a helmet and ran and was going to throw it at him, and well, that's what you get. I guess most people probably would have done the same thing, because they're not going to let somebody run up and throw, because, not too many people have been hit by it. Everybody knows what that helmet feels like. That would not feel very good if she plowed you in the back of the head with that thing.
Two questions, Randy. What does this video tell us with regards to the mindset that's needed in dangerous situations, for starters?
Well, we can assume that guy said something, and the guy that knocked him out took him seriously. And he didn't hesitate. He didn't wait. He didn't phone a friend. He didn't call 911. He decked the guy. And then he did the right thing. He starts to walk away. And when the girl comes, she left him really no choice. It is funny. I don't know if I'd have kicked her like that, but it worked and it was effective, and she deserved it. So
perfect timing. But let's see if we can, get a lesson out of this, though. How should conservatives prepare mentally and physically for potential confrontations? Because it's always the blue, green, purple haired freaks that are popping SSRIs that pull this shit. It's not conservative people. We don't see conservative people going out there and doing this stuff. How do they prepare for this, Randy?
Well, one, we've always told you, have a plan. Even when you're going out like that, if something happens, one, you should physically train. And everybody has to be a bodybuilder. We're not talking about that level of training, but you better get out and do some physical activity 3 or 4 times a week. Because of course, the older we get, the more you really need that. And, because the truth is, he's out there on the street, now he was a pretty big guy, but what would have happened if he popped that guy and then the whole street jumped on him? You know what I mean? At the very least, you better be in shape enough to run away if you have to.
Right. Fair enough. That works. So, Jeff, let me get the next one up for you here.
I'm just going to comment on that last one. You don't
Go
hit a
ahead.
lady.
Yes.
Didn't
Thank
say
you,
you hit
Jeff.
nothing about it. Yeah, you don't hit a lady. That was not a lady.
No.
It
No,
was
she
a woman.
wasn't.
It was a difference.
Yes,
Fair-
technically she did run into his foot. I agree. Kindly.
I reckon she did. That's awesome. This one, speaking of awesome, this is awesome here. So, a report: Soros Foundation sent $80 million to groups linked to domestic extremism. A new investigative report alleges that George Soros' Open Society foundations, now run by his son Alexander, have directed over $80 million since 2016 to groups linked to extremist violence, domestic terrorism, or foreign terrorist organizations. According to the report from the Capital Research Center, at least 23 million went to 7 U.S.-based groups that engaged in activities the FBI defines as domestic terrorism, such as property destruction, sabotage, and economic disruption.
Yeah.
Not surprised, but what legal mechanisms exist to do anything about this, Jeff?
Well, you're funding, if you're funding illegal activity, they can nail you. I mean, it's just like, the guys who laundered money for the drug lords. It's like, yeah, you didn't sell the drugs, but you profited from it, or you supported it, or you paid for it.
Yeah.
And, with all due respect to S2 the other day, when he said they really don't have a central organization with money, I got to say, yeah, I'm not so sure about that, because when you have professional protesters who fly from city to city to city, they're paid to protest and riot and destroy property. They're staying in hotels and they're getting paid every day. Whoever's paying for that is just as liable for the damage and the criminality as the people who actually do it. If I hire somebody to go burn down your house, I'm guilty of arson too. And this is no different.
Yeah, good analogy, good comparison for sure. So Khalid's got the last news item of the day here, and it's a doozy. And this is a post made by Khalid as well, so I'm not going to read
favorite
the whole
guy.
Yeah, Jolani. Yeah, Jolani, the co-founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria, former head of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, and former commander of ISIS Iraq, will be in the U.S. next Thursday, September 25th, to speak at the UN and meet Donald Trump. This is flabbergasting, Khalid.
Forget that. Did you see what happened yesterday? Al-Qaeda's co-founder in Syria was in Washington.
Yes.
Went to the State Department. They took him to the Pentagon and gave him a tour. And I'm going, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You are taking Al-Qaeda around and showing them everything?
Unbelievable. Who's responsible for this, Khalid?
Look, here's my problem. Donald Trump needs to make a decision. It's either the Nobel Peace Prize or it's American lives.
Yep.
It's one or the other.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Because if the homeland attack happens the way we're expecting it to happen, then that Nobel Peace Prize isn't worth anything. Even if you get it, it's not worth anything. Because if you sacrifice 50, 60, 70, 100,000 lives, then that Peace Prize doesn't mean the gold it's made of. Sure, it'll sit on your shelf, but it costs you 100,000 lives to get it. My problem right now, and I'll tell you where my problem is, Afghanistan is now the University of Terror.
Mm-hmm.
You are literally promoting, paying, giving them weapons. Since the Trump administration came to power, they have given the Taliban $1 billion. Let that sit for a second.
Can you tell the audience, Khalid, about the TTP and northeastern Pakistan, what's going on there?
Yeah. Let me finish the Afghanistan thought. You have given them $1 billion since the Trump administration came to power. Now, because of that $1 billion, now the TTP is now spread across the entire Afghanistan-Pakistan border. You are talking about 1,640 miles. 1,640 miles. They have complete control from the north to the south of that entire border. When you try and go anywhere near that, you're going to get shot at.
What's the terrain like there, Khalid?
What's the terrain like?
Yeah, is it mountainous?
Well, if you're about 40 kilometers out from the Afghanistan border, it's all flat land.
Okay.
But once you get 40 kilometers in, it's a mountain going up.
Gotcha.
And you are climbing up, whether you be in a vehicle or whether you be on foot.
So they're defending from the top down?
Yeah, they're sitting right on top and firing down.
Gotcha.
That's the reason our military has so much trouble in that area now. We just ran an operation there over the past 3 weeks, the Pakistan Army did. The reason we had so much trouble is that they had the top level positions. And if we put a drone in the air to try and shoot them out, they shoot at the drone and take it down because the Taliban is giving them so much weaponry that they can shoot our drones out of the sky.
Well,
now the only thing that will work is a Reaper, but the Americans won't give us Reapers they won't put Reapers in the air to take those positions out.
Interesting. Not encouraging, but definitely interesting.
No, it's going to get worse. Because, see, the problem is the more you give, the more you give. I go back to that same statement. The more space you give them, the more emboldened they become. The more space you give them, the more emboldened they become. The Taliban currently has 4 American citizens in their custody as hostages. You are going back and forth and making offers to them, asking for Bagram Air Base, asking for one thing, asking for another. The other day, when the U.S. said we'd like Bagram back, the Taliban turned around and said we want X billion of dollars, X billion dollars, and we want to reopen all of our embassies and consulates inside the United States. Now, if you open those consulates and embassies, you've given them command and control inside the U.S. to run run terrorists.
Yeah,
is Donald Trump going to agree to that too?
Well, I think that once upon a time, he might have been able to buy the freedom he's trying to buy, the peace. But that day's long gone. And I don't even know 20 years ago he could have, but it's long gone. And my opinion is, look, I hate to be the one to tell the president, you've already done enough to get the Nobel Peace Prize by past standards. They're not going to give it to you no matter what you do. It's not happening.
He could cure cancer and spread peace everywhere in the world. They won't give it to him. It's like you say, if he walked on water, the headline would be Trump can't swim.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable stuff that we'll continue to track closely, especially with Khalid on the ground over there. Before we get into the main topic, I got to play this little thing because it's cool as hell. The guys from Carnival sent it, and I've got a Carnival offer for y'all as well. So 3 seconds. It feels like the NFL back in the day when the NFL was cool and they were going to do something before they went to the NFL was gay.
Certainly on Monday Night Football, right? That was kind of the same feel right there.
Yeah, and I'm going to play it again today because I really like that thing. Just put it in at the appropriate spot. But
Williams Jr. to come out.
There you go. But the reason I put it up there right now is that if anybody out there in the audience would like to get a big care package of Carnival meat and merch for free and possibly even earn a few bucks, if you have a decent social media following, good engagement on your social media following, you don't have to be a grand thumb. You just have to have some respectable numbers. Email the URLs to your socials to support@survivaldispatch.com. We'll be vetting everybody and then passing them on to Carnival, who will make the final decision. But good opportunity for people to get some product for free. And basically all you have to do is eat it, be happy, and give them a testimonial and let them use your picture on their website. It's pretty straightforward. It's a good way to go. You get to eat and be happy, and your picture goes up and you're famous. Sounds pretty good deal to me. All right. So the main topic tonight is, again, first responders pushed past their limits. And in segment number 1, we'll do a short recap of what coordinated terrorist attacks look like. And the reason we're doing that is because when we laid out this 144 episode series, so 12 series, each with 12 episodes, so 12 times 12 is how you get to the 144. And we're partway through the third, call it story arc right now. Part of the reason we're covering this little bit in segment 1 to understand coordinated terrorist attacks is to stay true to our promise that each video in the series stands on its own, and you can watch all of them. You can watch some of them. You can watch them in any order you want, and they all make sense. So, Khalid, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you go through the high level overview of what 9/11 2.0 looks like in the initial phase.
You want phase one?
Yeah, from the initial attacks. Give me the first 72 hours, or give the audience the first 72 hours.
Okay, so what we're looking at is you'll have, let's take one city, for example, and then you can translate across 10, 15 cities. Let's take Columbus, Ohio. Let's say in Columbus, Ohio, you have 5 different cells roll out, 5 different attack cells roll out, assault teams. 5, 7 people in each assault team. They roll out and they hit 5, 6, 7 targets, and they keep moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. Each time they leave one guy behind. So you start off with 7. When you hit the first target, you have 6. Then you hit the next target, you've got 5. Then you can hit the next target, you got 4. The goal is to get 3 people into the hospital at the end. And you've got 10 teams doing the exact same thing. So by the time you get to the hospital, you have 30 people inside the hospital, right? They take siege of the hospital. What's that one guy left behind for? When those first responders show up, blows himself up. And he takes all the first responders with him. Okay? So that's stage 1. Now, inside those first responders, when they first start to show up, you have stolen police vehicles you've bought at auction. There are police vehicles, ambulances. These are all bought at auction. Those vehicles are then loaded up with explosives and rolled into different places. So when you roll into that place, for example, you roll into point 1 where the attack was carried out, all these people come running into it because they see a police car. They blow up that police car. The ambulances are taken to the hospital. When they show up at the hospital, they sit in the dock, or they stop a few out on the road and they wait for the people to come. Those vehicles are used to destroy the foundation of the hospital. So the front end of that hospital collapses. Once it collapses, you have no way that a SEAL team or any kind of rescue team or a SWAT team could penetrate the hospital. That means you have clean away 24 to 36 hours to launch as much mayhem as you want inside that hospital. The internet will not be shut down for the first 24 to 36 hours unless the police do it themselves. That would be the smart move for the police and the law enforcement and the administration to shut down the internet so that they cannot broadcast out the kind of gruesome things that will happen inside of hospitals. People will be shot in their beds. Doctors and nurses will have their heads cut off. They'll have people getting their hands cut off. The kind of mayhem you will see, you have never seen on American soil. And that's just the first wave. Wave 2 is when they launch cyber attacks. They take out all the electricity grids. They take out all of your computers. They take out everything. Wave 3 is when Al-Qaeda takes your airplanes and they blow them up in the air. They'll fly a couple into the Pentagon. They'll fly a couple into Langley, but they'll blow most of them up in the air. The 3-stage plan of 9/11 2.0 is the most devastating attack we've ever seen from Al-Qaeda, because it's Al-Qaeda and ISIS operating together. And the scary part of this is it's not just Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They've taken the dream team from Boko Haram, from ISIS, from Al-Qaeda, from the TTP, from Lashkar-e-Taiba, from all of the terror groups. They've taken the dream team, all the best of the best, and put them into one attack squad. And those attack squads are coming into the US and they're carrying out these attacks. They're already there. Biden's open borders on the north and south border has allowed them all to already infiltrate in. They are sitting in safe houses. They are not coming outside. You will never see them. Even if you've got pictures of them, you will never see them outside until the day of the attack. They have support teams that will be operating with them. In stage 2, the question that you've got on screen there, stage 2, your cyber attacks will be China and Iran. They will be carrying out the stage 2 attacks. The cyber attacks will be coming from those 2 countries, because Al-Qaeda and ISIS, while they are very strong from the cyber point of view, they are nowhere close to what China and Iran could do. people put a lot of, hesitation on Iran's hacking team. I just want to tell you guys, during the 12-day war with Israel, they hacked Israel. They got personnel files of every member of the IDF, nuclear files of Israel, out of Israel with their hackers. Do not look at Iran as being a little country that does not have the power. They have put their effort into the places where they need to. And they are coming at you. What you have is all of America's enemies have decided now is our turn. America's done this to us for so many years. Now we're going to return the favor. And we'll do it on U.S. soil.
Under the banner of the Islamic Army, correct?
Yep, under the banner of the Islamic Army, which is all of the terror groups. Anyone who's seen the graphic that we've got, it's all of the terror groups working together.
So I'm going to go to Randy and Jeff for a couple questions, and I'm coming back to you on this segment one before we wrap it up. So I don't know if there's a good answer for this or not. I assume there is, but what do you think key indicators would be that this first attack is part of a larger, more complex operation? I mean, I know that once the second one kicks off, we'll know that we're in deep. But what do you think initially might be a clue?
Well, how deep do you want me to go in that rabbit hole? Because I got some notes here.
Let her rip.
All right. So key indicators that an attack is a larger, complex operation often involve sophisticated tactics. Multiple stages. They may use specialized tools. Unlike opportunistic or basic cyber attacks, these advanced persistent threats, APTs, are typically highly targeted, well-resourced, and sustained over a long period to achieve specific strategic objectives. And so a multi-stage attack progression, key characteristic is that the attack is not a single event, but methodical, multi-phase process, like Khalid just described, for stealth and long-term access. One of those would be reconnaissance, which we've talked about. This is part of the probing. So extensive research is conducted on the target, including its network, infrastructure, key employees, and public-facing assets. Also, hackers may collect IP addresses, information, run scans, and research company personnel. Then you've got like initial intrusion. Gaining initial access is just the first step. This may be done through spear phishing, tailored specific employees, or by exploiting previously unknown software vulnerabilities. Lateral movement. Once inside, the attacker does. This is more prominently, I guess, on cyber, but this will be part of it. So they move laterally across networks, escalating privileges, and accessing high-value assets. This behavior often mimics legitimate user activity to avoid. Establish persistence. They'll create backdoors and install custom malware to maintain long undetected access. This ensures that if even one entry point is discovered, they can gain control. Then there's like data exfiltration. There's covering tracks. A high-level tactical sophistication. These methods and resources include the attack indicating a level of planning, execution beyond typical cyber crimes and attacks. So they may have custom and advanced malware, which they probably do. I would assume that they do. They'll have leveraging legitimate tools, living off the land and using other techniques. They'll co-op legitimate systems and administration tools, or like we said, they're going to be, they could be dressed up as first responders. There's encrypted communications, there's strategic intelligence, and then there's also subtle and persistent indicators, which may be a single large event. Complex operations often leave behind a trail of subtle anomalies that can be detected through continuous monitoring. And let's see what else we got here. So along on those lines, it still goes universal network activity, monitoring network traffic, anomalous user behavior. It could be privileged accounts that they use to access sensitive data, and repeated login failures. Those are the cyber stuff, but it's the same thing. I mean, the part on the ground attack, Khalid just laid out. If you, it's an attack that doesn't stop. It doesn't end. It isn't like September 11th. There were some steps to that, but basically after all the planes hit, it was over. Nothing really followed that. That's not going to be the case with these things. You will see further attacks, just like he described, from one little thing to the next over several days. That is a comprehensive attack.
I appreciate that, Randy. Very, very thorough there. So, Jeff, I'm curious what you think, what strategies could be used to improve early detection and mobilization for first responders.
Well, I think one of the first indicators is not we would think of as a normal or regular terrorist attack is you're going to have multiple attacks in different parts of the country happening simultaneously. On 9/11, yeah, there were 4 planes that were all in the air at the same time. They all took off from East Coast airports and they all hit targets on the East Coast. So and as Randy said, once the planes hit the buildings, it was over. But I think if you see a terrorist attack happening in Buffalo, and then you see another one happening in Nashville, it pretty much the same time, and then others in, say, in Denver or Portland or wherever, you're going to say, okay, this is not normal, or this is a sophisticated attack. And if anyone's been paying attention, you could say, this isn't the final step. This is the first step. And for first responders and police, if they're in an area that has not been attacked yet, they need to be on guard and be looking for any signs. And look at, there's going to be information all over the place. Most of it's going to be bullshit. But when you get verified information on the MO and the tactics and what they did, you got to say, okay, now let's look for that here. Are we seeing the same things here? And they're going to get flooded with leads. We saw it after 9/11. The FBI opened up a call helpline, and it was in Atlanta when I was there. It was a holdover from the Olympics. And we had to go through those things. And there were thousands of them. And we went through anything that had a foreign nexus, the agency guys went through. And we would send them overseas so that, liaison could help with that. But a lot of them are garbage, but a lot of them were legit. There were people saying that guy lived downstairs from me, and turns out he did. So I think one of their biggest problems is going to be separating the wheat from the chaff. There's going to be a lot of chaff. But all because it hasn't happened to you in the first day doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you tomorrow. So they need to be aware and try and learn from the first wave and look for those signs, anything similar to that in their area, so they can prevent a second wave or at least blunt it. To think it happened in New York, it won't happen here. That's a fool's errand if you're going to be banking on that one.
Yeah, agreed. So, Khalid, I'm not sure of the context here for Mike Matha or Math E. Maybe you could explain how this is not a job for the military. This is a job for Delta Force and the FBI's HRT teams, and we don't have enough.
Look, here's where your problem is. If you're thinking your military is going to be able to handle this, you're living in a dream world. Because these guys have been trained not only by your spec op guys, that training has been, it's kind of like a train the trainer. You train spec op guys in Afghanistan. Those guys train these guys.
Yep.
So you have created an army of spec ops. So when you send these teams in, you are talking maybe 5-6 Delta teams. How many different cities are you going to be able to control with those 5-6 Delta teams? And can your military stand up to your Delta teams? I mean, if it was your Delta against your regular military, who'd win? The problem, the mentality you've got to get out of is that, and Scott Mann says this all the time, nobody is coming to save you. He's not kidding. No one is coming to save you, because if you're thinking your military, well, it takes at least 36 hours to roll your military out. At least 36 hours. And that's assuming they're ready and they've got everybody on base and they've got vehicles, they've got planes, and they can move everybody at the same time. That's not even close to being true. If you remember what Mike Glover said, he said to move just one Delta team will take you 36 hours. Mm-hmm. Talk about moving a military battalion to do that. That's thousands of soldiers.
Well, and they're not geared to do that unless it's the 82nd, right? They're not. Airborne units are prepared to move like that, but the conventional infantry is not.
Yeah, but Randy, there's one problem here. The American people have never seen how their military operates.
No, I
And when
know.
you
You're
put
right.
the military out on the roads and tell them to go and clean up, that is going to scare the hell out of American citizens because they have never heard that kind of fire, that kind of urban warfare. That's going to change the entire mentality of the American people. Because
Oh,
you've
no,
seen it in
absolutely.
Iraq. You've seen it in Iraq, and you've seen what happened in Iraq. We've seen it in Afghanistan. We've seen it here in Pakistan. To see a military roll out and fight on the streets, that changes the makeup and the thought process of every single person who sees that military operate. This is not something you want to happen. This is never something you want to happen. It's for your military force to be rolled out onto your streets. That is it's a game changer for the entire U.S. for the rest of eternity.
No, because when that, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, I've got one question before we move on to segment 2, but Randy, go ahead and pose your question. I also wanted to thank Dano. He's being funny again with 556. Hey, we only shoot 762 here. Okay.
Yeah.
So get with the program. We appreciate it, Dano, very much. Thank you. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I didn't have a question. What I was going to say is, you know, what people have to realize if the American, well, for one, Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 both are not a big enough unit to handle this. It's just very small, folks. Now, we could use USASOC, which is United States Special Operations Command, and NSW, the SEALs, the rest of them. That might be able to handle it. But trust me, folks, whether it's them, 82nd, or a conventional infantry unit, if our military comes out on the street in your city, that does mean there will be martial law. That's a fact.
Yep.
Yeah, well, so thanks, Randy. So, Khalid, I had a question for you on, can you describe a scenario where you've seen communication breakdowns exacerbated when the terrorists are going through these complex coordinated attacks? In other words, communication between all the first responders goes foobar?
Yeah, it happens all the time because the first thing your terrorists hit is they overload your communication system. So 911 will be brought down. They'll put so many calls into 911 that your 911 system won't work. They'll jam the radio signal so the radio doesn't work in the police vehicles or in the ambulances. That part of their objective is to make sure that they overload the system. Once the system is overloaded, then they can take advantage of it. Because if you actually have a real police car showing up, that means they've got to detonate something. That takes the ball out of their hands. They want to be able to use as many of their decoy units as they possibly can.
Quick question for you. So the cell phone jammers that China makes a boatload of them are not legal in the U.S., but they've definitely come into the U.S.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. You can take, if you're in an area that has a poor cell phone signal, all of the major carriers will give you a box that pretends it's a cell phone tower. Your phone will connect to it because it's the closest, strongest signal. Then you plug it into your internet, and essentially it's a gateway that shunts everything over the internet. Well, we already know that we've had TDA use the exact same devices by putting them in somebody's front yard on a battery in a bush. And the alarm system and their cell phones are connected to it because smartphones are stupid. Have you seen this happening over there in any of the attacks that have been happening in the Middle East?
Yeah, you have Pakistan itself, Syria, Iraq have all seen these kinds of attacks where they have used dummy systems to take over the entire network. One thing you need to pay attention to is if you look at the number of cyber attacks that are happening, if you go back to May, it was maybe 1 or 2 every month. Now you're getting 2, 3 every week, and they're always pulling data. What are they pulling the data for? They're pulling that data to make identity cards. They're pulling that data to make credit card transactions. They're using that data against you. It's something that we didn't realize here in Pakistan. The Iranians have created a virus. They've created a malware system that they can drop it into your system. It will keep digging. It will keep digging. It will keep passing data out, keep passing data out, keep passing data out. And once it gets all the data that it needs, it self-destructs. And there's not an antivirus system in the world created that can handle that malware. We have tested it against 6 different antivirus systems, and none of them have been able to catch it. It somehow turns off the antivirus, gets in, turns the antivirus back on behind it.
Sounds like a great argument for running Linux or Unix.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we run Linux here.
Just say, Randy, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I was going to say, because there's some questions about the jammers in the feed there, and this is open source. I'm not disclosing anything that people can't look up. When it comes to those jammers, yeah, and so we have one that a bird has, right? And if we are deploying that thing, it can block out 19 square city blocks, and not a signal will get in or out when that thing is on. That is a fact. Not even our radios, nothing. So who knows how strong their jammers are? I would assume, they're not going to be as strong as that bird. That's why it's on a plane. Handheld or on vehicles only have a certain circumference, and I'm not going to go into what ours was, but I could tell you when we had them on and we were driving down the road in Baghdad, I could watch everybody looking at their phones, wondering why your call just dropped all the way down the block. So, well, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, here's examples of them. And prior to Trump getting in office, they were easier to get into the country. The Chinese will hide stuff like this in larger, products that they're shipping here. But that's all there is to them. But you don't even need them. Like I said, you could just have a bridge. We have a bridge because we had a cell phone tower behind us for T-Mobile get smoked in a hurricane. They never replaced it. So we've got CDMA connectivity here. So they gave us one of the bridges. And again, that's how we get out. It's easy to do. Smartphones are stupid. They're not going to, know the difference between a fake tower and a real tower. They don't know the difference.
And I think it's more effective, Chris. Right. The jammers are illegal for us civilians to use. You cannot use them.
That's right.
But the bad guys aren't going to care about that. But the smarter thing would be the bridge. It's just so much easier. Then people don't even know they're getting jammed.
They found a bunch. This was going on last year in California when TDA were doing, they were scoping out high-end homes and when people were coming and going, and they just brought one along, plugged it into a little power supply, and the alarm couldn't call anybody. And they went in, took everything they wanted, and then they brought all the crap back to Central America and South America. They were calling it at the time, burglary tourism. Was the name they put on it. Seriously. So it's crazy stuff. Before we jump into the second segment here, I just want to quickly mention, if you go to survivaldispatch.news, that's our Substack. And when we're broadcasting live, this window appears at the top. So you never have to hunt for a link to our video. Just go to survivaldispatch.news. It'll always be at the top. We always go on air at 7 p.m. Eastern time with a handful of exceptions throughout the year. I'm still weighing what we're going to do on Sunday, but we may just do a live broadcast at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Local time in Phoenix for the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Stay tuned on that. But survivaldispatch.news gets you to our Substack. The top item, the top article is always the sit rep for the day. If you haven't seen a situation report from us, this is what it looks like. And you sign up for a free account. We appreciate it very much because that helps us stay high up in the top 100 list. It's all predicated on how many people sign up. But when you're a free member, you get the sit reps, you get the weekly watch guide, you get JJ Morris's videos early. But if you sign up and you pay $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, which gets you 2.5 months for free, you get enrolled in our Survival Dispatch emergency notification system. It's automatic. You don't have to do anything. You get access to our private, super high traffic signal chat where there is a shit ton of intelligence that goes through there. And you also get all of the sources for our sit reps, plus all 37 Survival Dispatch Insider e-magazines that we sell for $9.99 a piece. So you get $370 worth of e-mags there, which are PDFs. So we'll jump right into segment number 2. Actually, before we jump into segment number 2, Jeff, last word before you go. I've
got to bail. I've got a prior engagement with my wife. If I don't go, I'm dead. But
it was nice knowing you, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. Complicated question. My response is keep the kids. All right, everybody, have a good night.
All right.
In a week.
Appreciate it, Jeff. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Safe travels. Jeff's going to be in West Virginia next week, shooting the next season of Surviving Man, our good friend Don, man. So let's jump into segment number 2, resource strain on law enforcement and emergency services. So essentially, as these second attacks occur, as Khalid described them, right? So the first group of shitbags, they undertake a terrorist attack. They've studied the police response time. They look at their watch. They know within 20 minutes that the cops are going to show up en masse, and then they clack off, blow their vests up, and they kill a whole bunch of first responders. So it's not just the fact that you have 10 or 15 cities being attacked simultaneously. It's not that you may have half a dozen soft targets being attacked simultaneously. It's also that they're going to be massive casualties amongst first responders. That's the whole thing, to crank the terror up to the next level. And then they go from there onto the tertiary attacks after that. It's like a horror show that just won't end. If you take nothing away from this entire 144 episode series, take this one thing away. If you are unfortunate enough to be caught on or near the X when this shit goes down, get as far away as you can, as fast as you can. Don't trust anybody. Don't run to first responders. There have been a ton of uniforms stolen, especially in the past 18 months. Look up all the National Guard armories that have been broken into. The numbers are astonishing. There were 3 of them in Tennessee just last month alone, where they stole a bunch of National Guard uniforms and boots to go with them. We've got break-ins at dry cleaners, law enforcement uniforms taken, paramedic uniforms taken. You can't trust anybody or anything except for yourself. You are your own first responder. Just get out of Dodge as fast as you can. And again, if nothing else sticks, please let that stick. So now what happens is we've got gridlock. What happens if they take out bridges and tunnels to New York City, which there's been intel to that effect, and the NYPD have even released warnings on that as recently as 2 weeks ago. And now you're going to run into problems like these guys are telling you when the jammers go on. Typically, the way disaster management goes is that FEMA sends orders to the state sends orders to the counties send orders to the municipalities. And it doesn't matter if it's a terrorist attack or a hurricane. That's the MO. That's the way it works. Well, if the local people have no comms because the comms are being blocked, then they have no idea how big the scope of this thing is. They don't know that there's 6 other locations being attacked simultaneously. They don't know there's another 10 to 15 cities being attacked simultaneously. So it goes without saying, comms go down, you're in deep doo-doo. So Khalid, I'm going to go to you for some more commentary on this. And if you could give us some firsthand opinions from your part on these complex coordinated attacks. You can go Mumbai, you can go November or Paris, November 2015 or anything else, but just give the audience an idea of what happened in those incidents so they understand the enormity of it.
Well, look, you have to understand, once that first wave of terror attack happens, your next target is your first responders. So what happened in Mumbai, what happened in Paris was that they targeted your first responders. In Mumbai, they sat up on the top of the hotel in 5th, 6th floor of the hotel, and they fired back at the police. So wherever the police got close, they'd start shooting at the vehicles. So they would force the police to go backwards again. Once they went backwards, they'd have an IED or they'd have a bomber sitting backwards back there. And once they got close by, they'd clack off and they'd blow up that vehicle. So you were pushing police back into their own death. This time, the attack is very different. You're not looking at it from the point of view of what is going to happen when the attack goes off. They are figuring on carrying out an attack on your first responders at the same time. When they show up, they're going to take them out. The reason we all scream about what happened in New Orleans on January 1st and why there was no investigation on this, the attack was laid out in the exact same way. What we're talking about right now is what the New Orleans attack was laid out as. Jabbar was supposed to pull in, run over a bunch of people. In his vehicle, he had an IED. You'll remember that there was one news story that came out that said there was an explosive that had never been used before. that was found in his vehicle. Then that story went dead. No one talked about it after that. His home, when they went and they searched his house, they found the same thing there. They said that he'd been manufacturing an explosive, and the explosive was not something they'd seen before. Story went dead. If you go back and look at the New Orleans coverage, you'll find there were 2 or 3 people, and it's reported in the media, there were 2 or 3 people in New Orleans that were planting IEDs on the routes that the first responders would be using. So what we saw was the first test of this theory was done in New Orleans. But because they took down Jabbar so quickly and they killed him, the entire attack was squelched right there. Had it gone on a little bit longer, you would have seen this attack lay out. That was the first test of what we saw in the US. We had seen this in Mumbai. We had seen this in Paris. We have seen this in other pieces of this in other cities. But the problem is when you're not understanding that this can happen, and so far the American government has not admitted that this can happen. And that's what scares us, is the more you push this backwards and say, oh, it can't happen, it can't happen, it can't happen, the less time you give yourself for getting ready for the attack. And that means your citizens aren't ready, your police isn't ready, your ambulances aren't ready, and your military is not ready. If you know that this attack is coming, you could have standing orders so that maybe you've got 400, 500, 600 troops in different bases ready to go, on a go order ready. But when you're saying, oh, it's not going to happen, no, I'm not worried about this, this isn't credible intel, that makes us worry, because that means you're not taking this seriously at all. If you're not taking it seriously, then what's happening in Europe right now is going to happen here in America. And the other problem is when you look at different things that are happening at airports around the US, navigation systems going down, air traffic control systems going down, that's not just because someone's playing games, someone's testing something. And what you need to figure out is, what are they trying to achieve by bringing down the air traffic control system? Are you trying to crash 2 planes in the air?
I'm going to go to Randy for one question, then I'm going to come back to you with a very specific question, Khalid.
Sure.
So, Randy, before you go, somebody in the audience asked if Jeff knows Jason Hanson. No, he does not. And the reason I know that is because I know Jason, and I specifically asked Jeff many months ago if he'd ever crossed paths with Jason, and he didn't. He wasn't aware of him, but decent guy for sure. So question for you, Randy, is what are the most common resource shortages that law enforcement faces during these complex coordinated attacks?
So what I got here is, during coordinated attacks, law enforcement agencies face several shortages of critical resources, including personnel, reliable communication, specialized equipment, and medical aid. The simultaneous nature of these threats quickly overwhelm and stretches departments, disrupting their ability to respond effectively. And we've seen that in the past. So we know this happens. We can go back to even the January 6th thing. And of course, the press and everybody doesn't want to talk about the 2 fake bombs that were put out there, but they did come into play that morning. And why? Because it stretched the resources thin in DC. So apparently they could say that that's why there wasn't enough people on the Hill. Regardless, but personnel shortages are the most fundamental challenge of having enough officers to respond to multiple simultaneously threats. And of course, if they're killing some of those during the initial events, that part is gone for good. So are their vehicles. You have widespread attacks or coordinated attacks often involve multiple locations, creating overwhelming demand for personnel that can exceed the capabilities of any single agency. Staffing crisis. Many police departments, particularly in urban areas, already operate below budgeted staff levels due to recruitment and retention issues. And we know this is a fact. Strain on specialized units. And we talked about this too, about the difference in the SWAT units and other assets. To meet the demand for a frontline patrol, agencies must be forced to pull officers from specialized units such as robbery or homicide investigations. This can create staffing gaps in other critical areas of public safety. Then you have communication failures, right? Effective interagency communication is vital during a multi-jurisdictional attack. But if system failures are a common and critical problem, So we got let's see, interoperability issues. Different agencies often use incompatible radio systems, making it difficult for local, state, and federal responders to communicate and coordinate in real time. This was a major challenge.
You were an echo at one point, Randy.
Yep.
Explain the difference between them because of different types of encryption, different types of channel hopping, all the reasons why there's a lack of interoperability there. And William Stover, thank you very much. Yes, Starlink would work, as well as T-Mobile service to Starlink would work. Thank you for the tip. We appreciate it very much. But sorry, go ahead, Randy.
Well, we'll look at this. So your conventional army, right? They use what's called a SINGARS. It's still a channel hop. It's still got encryption, and it's still a damn good radio, right? It really is. However, in special operations, we have 3 other classified radios. I had a SINGARS also, but I had 3 other classified radios. And one of the things I had to do every time we did any kind of unilateral hit was go meet with all the people that we're going to be doing this with and their communications folks. And then we would exchange frequencies and all that other stuff so that we can get on the same page. And literally, I would have 2 or 3 radios coming into mine so that I could hear what they're saying on their channels, as well as communicate with my team on our internal freaks. So that's kind of how it goes. And I would imagine, I've never been in law enforcement, but I guarantee you, between county, state, and federal, they're probably using different systems. So though you have to marry those up ahead of time well, if you want to be effective, right?
Yeah.
Again, doing that later might not be in time. So, and if you want to talk about different radios, I can't really talk about the classifieds when we have, but one was satellite, and the others worked on some different things, but I couldn't communicate with those through to the SINGARS, right? I would have to go through the SINGARS radio so I can talk to them. Now, there are some expensive radios that you can do, but I kind of doubt our law enforcement has those resources.
They have the same, business class radios that we have, like the Motorola's and the Kenwoods that are sitting right behind me. And also the FCC will carve up frequencies in between common frequencies. Like we have 5 channels that the FCC licensed to us for a 50-mile radius with our business class license that nobody else can hop on those channels at all. Number 1. Number 2, it's all encrypted. Number 3, even though we don't channel hop at 100 frequencies per second like the military Harris units do, the Motorola's that we have flip 3 channels every 1 second. So inside that 5 bands that we have, it'll flip through 3 of them every second.
And then when you start talking about government assets, dang it, I just lost my train of thought. I got sometimes, but
it's complex.
Well, what you talked about, I know what it is. So when you're talking about what you just talked about, the federal government does that too on all levels, but you have to have a frequency manager also involved in that process.
It's
for that
complicated.
very reason. Yes, it is.
It's not a simple thing.
And then there's legalities, right? You can't just go make up your own freak and get on there. It's just so there's definitely some processes that need to be worked through ahead of time.
Yeah, we've got a big roundup, by the way, communications roundup coming within the next 2 weeks. We're going to cover everything from FRS to GMRS to ham radios to Garmin InReach minis to LTE radios. Everything, like the whole 9 yards that's coming up.
What you see, that was my next note when you stop me. It's insufficient or mismatched equipment, which definitely law enforcement does, and even the military, then you talk about medical resource deficiencies. There is a ton of stuff on this very topic.
Yeah, for sure. You could probably do a whole episode on it. So Khalid, I wanted to come back to you just for one more question on this. So Rob Sweetman was SEAL Team 6. He owns a company called Sleep Genius, and you can find the website, type Sleep Genius and put a dot in front of the U. It's a .us. And in his studies, he has a doctorate in sleep, and this is a former SEAL Team 6 team guy. At 24 hours without sleep, you're worse off than if you were inebriated by drinking alcohol and well over the limit of a Dewey, for example. much
Hey,
like myself,
it took care of that. Those rippets, right?
right? So much like myself, you work crazy hours and sometimes you're out doing ops and stuff like that. Maybe just explain the effects of the fatigue on decision making, plus all of the stress of being in the middle of an attack. Like it's a level of stress that most of us, thank God, will never experience.
I mean, you've got to be conditioned for this stuff. I mean, when we're out running ops, I mean, one part of our training is that we spend 24 hours without sleep, 48 hours without sleep, and we have to go out to the firing range and test our skills and make sure we can fire. Most people are not running that level of stress induction. Most of your police forces aren't running that level of stress induction. So when you talk about a terror attack that's running 24, 36 hours, not only are your skills depleted, but your decision making is also depleted because you are not used to being up that long. You're not used to having to think for that long. And it's one of the things that our GWAT guys are fantastic at is that they have learned how to roll with the time frames, 10-minute naps, 15-minute naps in between where they can get a break.
Great advice.
That's running. But most of our police forces, whether it be in the US or anywhere else in the world, they have never run a 24-hour cycle where they have to go through 24 hours of high stress. Because see, it's different when you're sitting in a patrol car for 24 hours, and it's very different when you're fighting a battle for 24 hours.
Oh,
because you cannot go, okay, let me just go get a cup of coffee and I'll get better after my cup of coffee. There is no cup of coffee. You've got to keep yourself wired up. You got to keep yourself in control. You got to keep yourself in your head. That's the hardest part of stress induction. It's why we put people at Command 11 through that process. We want to make sure that if we put you out in the field with a weapon, that if we're out there for 24 hours, 36 hours, it doesn't affect you like it affects a normal person. And
what happens to their fine motor ability at that stage, Khalid?
Oh my God! The first time when we get new recruits in and we put them through our stress induction training, by the time they're into their 22nd hour, they can't even hit a target. They cannot even hit a target. And these are guys that when they first come in and they're well rested, they're dead on bullseye. But as the hours progress, their aim starts to slide. And the bigger problem with them is that their mental acuity is gone. They pop off very quickly. They have no control over their emotions. They spin and they're ready to pull and fire. That police force has to be trained at this level, 24, 36 hours, wide awake, no coffee, go to war.
Do you want to hear an interesting anecdote, Khalid?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name names because I'm not going to name names, but there was a fairly large PD in a fairly large U.S. city that a group called CAG, Crisis Application Group, went in to train their SWAT team guys on some things. I'll leave it at that. And the guy who went to train them and had a guy with him, they had just run-of-the-mill ARs, nothing fancy on them. And one of the trainers gets up, he's at 100 yards away, and he's shooting 4-inch groups. And the SWAT team guys are shooting 1-inch groups, and there's some chatter going on between them, like, what's this guy going to teach us? He sucks, and they've got all the Gucci hardware and stuff, right? Out of nowhere, because they didn't know what the program was going to be like. They were all told, go grab one of those backpacks. We're going for a run. And they had these backpacks loaded up with 75 pounds of shit. So the trainers go with them and they go on this run. And I don't know how long it was, but it was of some distance. And they got back and everybody went to grab, something to drink. And the one guy said, whoa, time out. There's no break yet. You're going to go take your gun, get on the line, and you're going to run through a mag so we can see where you're at. So the guy who was shooting 4-inch groups, that was one of the trainers, he ran with them. He carried the same 75 pounds. He gets up, he shoots the same 4-inch rounds. The SWAT team guys get up there huffing and puffing. They shot 24-inch circles at 100 yards because they had never engaged in a stress inoculation like you mentioned. How crazy is that?
That's unbelievable. But you have to understand, most of your police forces aren't ready for this.
Not at all. Like, not at all. How many can anybody in the audience guess what the number is? What's the percentage for 2024 of shots taken by law enforcement officers across the country that connected with their target? And I'll give you a little hint. It's never gone over 20% for the entire time that that number has been kept track of. So it's kind of like the Price is Right. Don't go over 20, because you go over 20, your price is too high and you're out. But I'd love to see what people have to say in the chat, because it's pretty crazy number. On the other extreme, and it was largely based on the type of war we were waging, you can look this up as well. I don't know if you know this one, Khalid. In Vietnam, we fired 55,000 rounds per KIA of the enemy.
Yep.
Now, there was a lot of strafing going on. It was a different type of war that they were waging in the jungles, but that's a shit ton of ammo to kill one tango, right?
Well, what I will say to that, it's a fact. That is why we did away with the fully auto. Your regular infantry guy no longer has a fully auto M16 or M4. It is a 3-round burst or single round. That's it. And that's why, because you waste a lot of rounds. And honestly, in special operations, you have that fully auto. And in my time, I never had to use it, fortunately, because, you know, you can pull the triggers just as fast and be much more lethal, more accurate than just leaving that. Now, when you would need full auto, and during the initial invasion, I was in a mechanized unit. So one of the weapons we had in our vehicle was a port firing weapon that was for the Bradleys. And basically, this is an M4 that's, well, I can't get my picture. It's not even very long, and it screws into that back door. So you don't even have to open the door, and you look through this thick glass, and you just hose the crowd. And that's what we would have used them for, but we never had to do that. And so we learned that lesson in Vietnam, and that is why we switched the whole arsenal of weapons. For that.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
Spec Ops is trained that way. I mean, single shot is how Spec Ops is trained. They're not trained to burst fire.
So
it's just not accurate. It's just not accurate.
Yeah. We've got people who've posited 5%. Daryl Walker 12%. Nobody's hit the number yet, but I tell you what,
17 on somebody, 18, and there's
where's that?
15. Let's see. Timothy Graff said 18.
Who said 17?
Let's see, where was the 17?
17 is Shannon Grady.
Yep.
Say that again. Who was it?
Shannon Grady.
Hey, Shannon, send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com so I can get your email. You just got a 1-year free subscription to Survival Dispatch Guardian, because the number is 17%. Well done. You didn't go over the price. And we don't have any pretty blonde women to dance around and, you know, show your prize in front of everybody.
Depending on if Shannon's a woman or not, she may not care for that anyway.
Well, fair enough. All right. So moving on to segment number 3, and this is the reality setting in that we are not going to be able to help everybody, meaning that the first responders cross a line where it's no longer a possibility to respond to everybody and everything, and triaging, meaning we can only do the stuff that's the highest priority. The rest of the stuff isn't going to get looked after. And that's, we've never had that situation in America. And psychologically,
that's why this plan is so diabolical.
Yeah.
And well thought out by a criminal, for sure.
Yeah. I would venture to say, pardon my French, it'll be a massive psychological mind fuck at the end of the day.
It'll be a real shit show.
Yeah. So
look, Shannon says she's stoked, and she is a pretty blonde woman. Good for you. Good for you. Bruno says, can she cook? I don't know, Bruno. I'm not going to get into that.
Should we send her some? Should we send her some Carnival?
That's right. Maybe we should send her some Carnival.
Anyway, Shannon, like I said, send an email, support@survivaldispatch.com, and I'll hook you up with a free 1-year
she's
membership.
also.
on Substack. Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Shannon. We appreciate that
Yep,
very,
thank you
very
for your
much.
service.
Appreciate your service. Yes. So just a couple other things here as far as the reality is concerned. There's going to be an emotional breakdown here. So a lot of law enforcement officers who have never shot anybody and then finally end up shooting somebody have a complete meltdown from taking somebody's life. It's not a trivial thing. And I've never had to shoot somebody to death, but I did get in a fight with a guy who, him and another guy, one of them hit me across the back of the head with a stool. And when my head went forward, the other one kicked me in the face, and it enraged me. And we went outside, and I left the guy in a puddle of blood. And the cops came around the next day wanting to know what had transpired, because his girlfriend took him back home and then to a party. And he said, "Oh, I forgot something at the house. I need to use your car." And this is in the middle of the night. And he was going down a 2-lane highway and waited for a vehicle that was approaching from the other direction. It was like 5 a.m.-ish in the morning, waited until they got close, and then crossed the line and killed all 3 generations, a grandfather, father, and grandson, who were on their way to go fishing, and committed suicide himself. And they came to me because I was the last person typically who saw him. And that kept me up for a very long time, put it that way. Just thinking, what if, did I really have to go that far? Young, dumb, and you know what. So anyway, moving on from there. We
did have one more. I'm sorry. Apparently, because Heidi Lou just chimed in and said she got left out. She also said 17. So
support it, survivaldispatch.com. Be happy to hook you up. Absolutely, Heidi. So actually, I've covered about half the bullets for segment number 3. I'm going to let Khalid explain the reality of having to move to triage level. And Randy, I want you to weigh in on triaging as well, just because of your military background. But quick question for Randy: the entire time you were a paramedic before you were a Green Beret, did you ever see a situation where you had to say, we can't help them, we're going to help these other people because we have to triage this situation?
So no, because the biggest event, honestly, that I was in was while I was still in the schoolhouse, right?
Okay.
And I happened to be doing, so when you're doing, whether you're an EMT or a paramedic, not only do you have to go to that school, then you have to ride on an ambulance for a certain amount of hours and see a certain amount of patients. Then you also have to spend a certain amount of time in an emergency room doing the same thing. And you have to do all these write-ups on that. So at this point, when I was at school, my first day went by on the ambulance, and I was there all day, not one call. And I go back to school, and everybody's coming in with all these good stories, and this patient and that patient. I'm like, man. So I get on my second day, right? And I'm like, man, hopefully this goes better. And literally like 2 or 3 hours go by and nothing. And then all of a sudden this little rain started, right? And it was kind of cold too. I remember, because we got a call, guy broke his hip in his backyard. He was mowing his yard, slipped in the wet, fell over, and he was older, obviously older gentleman, and it broke his hip. We carry him to the hospital. And as soon as we drop him in the emergency room, I go back and I'm by the ambulance, and all of a sudden both the paramedics come running out. Say, "Get in the ambulance, we got to go." And no, I'm not still certified. That was a long time ago. But we get on, we head out, and I don't even know what's going on, man. I can hear something over the radio, and then I see both of them look at each other like, oh shit. And then when we pull up, so this was 1987, I think is what it was, but there was a Trailways bus and a Gabriel Van Lines tractor trailer on I-10. The bus was heading out of Beaumont to Houston, left 2 or 3 minutes late. Now, during this rain, while we were picking up the guy in the backyard, this wreck happened. And what happened was the Gabriel Van Lines had jackknifed and lost control. And then it came across the median, because back then they were only like little grass ditches. They didn't have like a separation divider. And it came right across. Unfortunately, the Trailways bus was coming over a big overpass. And I think it's Watson Road. I can't remember. It's I-10 and something with a W right there as you're leaving Beaumont, Texas. And it's an overpass. So as soon as the bus crossed over that, everybody on the bus that lived said all of a sudden the driver hit the brakes and they slid all the way down the overpass, and there was no stopping. So luckily for the tractor trailer, it was like this. So literally it was the corner of the trailer that hit head on with the Trailways bus. Killed 6 people right there, 19 injured. And, you know, we triaged there. So I was there for 3 or 4 hours. But since that first ambulance, and this is kind of how it works on a big event like that, and providing you still have the resources, that first ambulance triages, and then more ambulances keep coming as long as you need them, and then some will come back. And so that's kind of how it works on triage and that. But again, if something like this happens and you destroy some of them or kill some of those crews, there's nobody else on duty. They have to bring people in.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Randy. So Khalid, let's just pick up back on segment number 3, the crisis triage, and, you know, the impossible choices that they're faced with. I know that's rhetorical, but the tough decisions. Let's leave it at that. Go ahead.
No, it's impossible. I mean, we've been on suicide bombing sites where you literally have to make a decision to let somebody die, and it's the hardest thing you can do, because, you know, if you had the time, if there weren't that many victims, you could save them. But because there are so many victims, you have to decide who you let go and who you actually treat. We have always run on whenever there's a suicide blast. We don't see a lot of shootings anymore from terrorists in Pakistan. Most of what happens here is blasts. When a blast happens, you have got to make a decision, and usually, of all of the victims, you can only save maybe 20%, and those are people with minimal injuries that you can bandage up and move on, bandage up and move on, bandage up and move on. Guys that have shrapnel in them, you kind of have to make the decision if you can get them to the hospital in time or not. And it's a really difficult call to make, because we're all in that mentality of save as many as you possibly can. And when you can't do that, it takes a toll on you. I remember my first suicide blast. I was in Karachi. It was a shopping mall. I happened to be driving maybe about 1 mile, 2 miles out of the range of the blast. We heard the blast. It moved the car on the road, and I turned towards the blast because we had seen them back in where we were on the battlefield. So I knew what kind of damage we were looking at. By the time we got there, we just had to make a decision that, you know, just let them go. There's nothing we can do. And that takes a lot of toll, especially if you've never seen that kind of blood. The kind of blood that you see after a suicide blast, I can tell you this much: you will see body parts 300 yards away from the person who was near that bomb.
Wow.
And to try and figure out how to pick up what and pick up where and how to put them together, it's not worth the time. You just have to say, I'm sorry, I can't help it. And you deal with the ones you can save.
Yeah, that's it's incomprehensible for, you know, anybody who hasn't been in that particular situation. So we're going to move into segment number 4, which is the psychological and physical toll on first responders. So you've got exhaustion setting in, probably not drinking enough fluids, and there's all kinds of studies that show once you get into 24 plus hours and you're dehydrated, theoretically you can live 3 days without drinking, but you don't make great decisions past that first day, especially when you're adding this level of stress on top of it. So it's got significant mental health impacts, short term, making the right decisions, long term, you know, PTSD, making life or death calls. If you're involved in somebody's death in any capacity, even the way I was, it will haunt you for a long, long time. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, many of these people are running on adrenaline, and there's a wave in between the first and second and third attacks. You got about 20 minutes of sitting on your ass when the adrenaline dump hits. And at that point in time, the wheels are coming off. Literally, the wheels are coming off. So the other part to this that I'd like you to speak towards, Khalid, is, you know, we had a massive reduction in law enforcement because of the idiots who were for, you know, defunding the police. And then they realized, oh shit, we need cops. They couldn't get anybody to pass the exams, the entrance exams, physical and written. So they lowered the standards, and we now have post 2020 cops like Acorn Cop here in Florida. Then
Well,
you take the
I think what we saw there, Chris, is not just that they weren't the good candidates no longer came out because they don't
Yep.
want to do a job that when they do the job as they're trained, they might still end up in prison.
Yeah,
Yep.
but no, that's what I'm saying is you've got the head count reduction.
Yep.
You've got veteran officers walking away because
Yep.
who would
By
put
the
up with that shit,
groves.
right? Then you have the next group coming in that are lower quality. They had to lower the standards at pretty much every agency to get them in uniform, and they're ill prepared. Most agencies in the country are running somewhere between 50 and 65% of what they should have for head count.
Yep.
So there's just not enough of them to make a difference. And then the next part that I discussed at length with Keith Graves is he said, you know, if he was still on the job in the Bay Area and something like this hit, screw you. I'm going to protect my family. I'm not going to risk my life when my family isn't in a safe situation. So Cleet, if you could maybe like share some insights on what support there is for the first responders when it's actually happening, and then go a little bit longer term as far as the burnout rate from being exposed to this stuff repeatedly.
Yeah, look, there when the attack happens, there's nobody to help your first responders. I mean, if this was like a normal car accident or something that happened in your neighborhood, there'd be hundreds of people come out and give water, give tea, give coffee, give food, and keep your first responders hydrated and running fine. When you're talking about a terror attack, everyone's running for cover, and nobody wants to be left out there where the police where they can be a target. And the biggest problem you have is that most of the guys that have come into the police force after defund the police, they're not ready for something like this. I mean, they're out of shape. They don't know how to run. They don't know how to carry themselves. They've never fired a gun before. Just the reaction of the first time you fire a weapon that's going to shake a lot of people. Firing on a shooting range at a silhouette is one thing. Firing at a human being is something very different. And that's not something that most people come back from. A lot of these cops out there are really tough, and they've lifted weights and they've done everything that they built themselves up. But pulling that weapon and taking that shot and taking somebody's life, that's not something everybody can do. That's a mental state you have to get yourself to. And the first time you do it, the reaction, the rollback from that is it's gonna drain you. It is really gonna drain you. It comes back to haunt you for a lot. That's part of where PTSD comes from, is when you take a life, you get dreams in the middle of the night where you see those people come back in shadows, and they're moving around the house. The burnout that you get when you're running, most police forces run 12-hour shifts, and that's mostly sitting in a police car. When you are 12-hour shift on your feet, and it's 18-hour shifts on your feet, running, gunning, looking for cover, you're going to burn out very quickly. I would not be surprised if a lot of cops just got in the car and went home and said, forget it, I'm going to protect my family, let everyone else protect themselves. It's nasty to say it that way, but at the end of the day, a police officer has a family as well. And why is he going to stay there and protect you when he's got his family unprotected at home? So there's a lot of things that you need to take into account here. It's one of the reasons why we've said over and over and over and over, train yourself on a weapon, learn how to fight, learn how to fire, learn how to take care of yourselves. Because if at the end of the day, there's no police officer to defend you, all you've got is your neighbors and yourself. And if it comes down to it and you're not ready, it's a bloodbath. And I've seen it happen. And there's no coming back from it. I mean, you have bodies laying in houses, and could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks before anyone comes along and collects those bodies. And it's just very difficult to deal with. You're talking about an attack that America has never, ever seen in the history of the US. And this carries out, and you don't come back from this easily. You don't come back easily. It will take a lot of work as a community to come back.
Well, one of the effects of, having an adrenaline dump is getting very emotional. And
well, yeah, you're gonna get emotional, Chris. I mean, think about it. You are flying on adrenaline, and as soon as that adrenaline stops, you drop. And as soon as you drop, everything you've done in that past 18 hours starts running through your head, and you may start crying. You may start screaming and yelling. You may just throw your gun to the ground and go, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what the response is going to be from people.
Well, and the other thing is, people have seen it. We all know it happens. Taking another life it's one of those things you never, certainly in my experience, you never stop seeing their face. It doesn't matter how many, you never stop seeing their face. But that adrenaline drop we're talking about, certainly it even happens, like even if you're going through it right then, and then you, certainly for somebody that's never done it and it's their first time, we've seen it on movies, but it's true. The adrenaline drop is so strong in that moment. Why do you think they throw up? Not everybody does, but a lot of people do. Most people do. You throw up because that's the adrenaline. That's how strong it is. And then guess what? One of the things we talked about a couple nights ago, as that gets extended for hour after hour, the next thing you know, when that adrenaline jump goes, you could almost go to sleep right there in the middle of the street because you have no energy left. It zaps you.
So while you're center stage here, Randy, what are the most common physical challenges that first responders face in a terrorist crisis? Randy did his homework.
Yes, I did. I was like, man, I gotta do a better job for you guys. I was glad you sent them, like, man, and I had time to do it today. So
right on.
So what we have, so the most common physical challenges first responders face in terrorist crisis involve exposure to toxic contaminants. And we spoke about that, and they may use some. The physical hazards of structural collapse, which we know is going to happen, a wide array of injuries from explosions, the extremely demanding work environment characterized by long hours of strenuous physical tasks also leads to chronic health issues and exhaustion, just is exactly what we just talked about. So inhalation and exposure to toxic substances, that's pretty self-explanatory. It could be respiratory illness, chemical, biological, radiological. I don't think we're, as Khalid has mentioned, I don't think we're going to see any nuclear, but that also falls into this category. And then long-term, those things cause cancer. And then you've got acute traumatic injuries. First responders face significant immediate risk of physical injury. From both direct attacks and the unstable environment. So blast injuries, again, speaks for itself because it creates a multi-dimensional trauma, including head injuries. And the thing about head injuries on a blast, people say it's a concussion. So there is a difference when you get a concussion on the football field or even in a car wreck when there's a blast. When it's an explosion or a blast, that you get that from, there's also a thermal exchange that takes place inside the brain. That's also what makes that different and much worse. We talked about the structural collapses. You know what I mean? That's self-explanatory. If they're around buildings that fall, bad things happen to soft tissue when that happens. And muscle, skeletal injuries, same thing, man. The strenuous work of search, rescue, and recovery, often involving lifting heavy loads and working long hours, lead to acute injuries like sprains, fractures, and head injuries. When we think about here recently, all those people down there doing recovery in the Texas floods, you can imagine how tired they must have been after only a week or two. And then we got chronic physical ailments that come up afterwards, or even the exhaustion and fatigue. If this thing goes on for several days, the people that weren't directly affected in there as first responders, it's not going to take very long, but they're going to be emotionally and physically fatigued, which leads to cardiovascular, lack of sleep, equipment related challenges. While designed to protect, some equipment can pose physical challenges for responders in unique conditions of a terrorist attack, such as ineffective or inadequate gear, which we've also touched on quite a bit. In some cases, personal protective equipment, again, that we talked about. Even this beard, me and you, Chris, we'd have to shave them down. We'd have to be more like Khalid. He might be able to get away with making a seal.
Yep.
This right here, I'm not going to make a seal.
Yep, for sure.
Wet garments, heavy and restrictive equipment, which we know they all do. And over time, it doesn't matter if they're putting out a fire. The amount that they're going to perspire over a day or two, if they survive through that whole thing, is going to take a toll.
I appreciate that, Randy. So we're moving into the fifth and final segment tonight, which is really the lessons learned and how do you enhance future preparedness. There's an old adage that says we are always fighting the last war. Yeah. And essentially what that means is when we are faced with a new challenge like complex coordinated swarm attacks across the country like this from terrorists, there will be massive AARs done, so after action reports and studies. That information in turn will become the new and improved and better SOP, standard operating procedures. And no matter how bad a situation is, at the very least, you always gain knowledge out of. In this case, it's going to be pretty expensive to gain this type of knowledge. The other part to it is that technology, of course, is always marching forward. So as new technology comes out, you can war game it against what happened last time, and maybe this is the right thing that we need. There have been thousands and thousands of drone intrusions at NFL stadiums. We now have devices out there in the military where they send electromagnetic pulses to the air, bring down all the drones. And the reason they're doing that is kinetically with bullets. It ain't going to happen, not when you have a massive swarm. But the other part to it is we're hoping that when we knock them out of the sky, there's still something left that we can get some information from. But that's all a work in progress. For example, no local PD has those units. These are things that are, sitting on the front of ships right beside a Sea Whiz, for crying out loud. So anyway, at the very least, we gain that knowledge, then we apply it going forward. The Japanese call it Kaizen, K-I-Z-N, means continuous improvement. Very expensive education on this. But I have a really specific question for you, Khalid. What can community members, what can community members do to help the responders during the upcoming attacks and future attacks when we have a little bit more knowledge on? But what's the piece for people who are in good shape, that have experience? Maybe they got some first aid medical experience. Maybe they're GWAT veteran. How can they potentially assist and not be misinterpreted as someone who shouldn't be in the mix?
Well, we talked about this before. I mean, we're trying to put together a network right now of GWAT guys, GWAT guys that we can connect with law enforcement in different cities, so that when this thing kicks off, at least the cities know who the GWAT guys are and they can call them into play. The problem is getting the GWAT guys to step up and say, yeah, we're ready to play. We're ready to participate in this, because they've already been to battle once. And now that they're back, they're a little bit relaxed, and we need to get them motivated again to come out and help in a situation like this. First responders, anyone who's been a nurse, anyone who's been a doctor and has retired, in mass casualties, you can do a lot of good if you go out there and you take your bag with you and you start treating people. There's not going to be enough first responders to take care of everybody who's injured. That you need to understand. The biggest thing you need to figure out is, do I stay in my community or do I go out into the city and help there? And that's why the more we talk about this, the more you've got to get your decisions made. If you are a GWAT vet, if you are a doctor, if you are a nurse, you need to make these decisions now. Because once you make your decision, then you've got to make yourself available to first responders or to the police department. Say, listen, if this were to happen, this is my number. This is how you reach me. Get in touch and I'll be there. Because no police force has enough people to take care of this situation. Second problem is, even if you have enough of a police force, you don't have the training to take care of this kind of a situation. Same thing with first responders. The types of injuries you're going to see, people with missing limbs, people with parts of their bodies blown off, these are not things that you've seen before. And you need people who've been there. GWAT doctors, GWAT nurses, people who've retired that have seen bloodshed and understand what it looks like. They can get you through those things. It's nice to think that you'll be able to handle it, but the emotional reaction you're going to have as a human being is going to be very, very strong. You shouldn't fight it. Please understand that whatever your emotional reaction is, let it come over you, because it's going to come over you once. Once it's gone, then you can operate. But if you try and fight it, you're going to keep it inside. It's going to keep beating at you. It's going to keep eating at you. It's going to limit your ability to operate. That's the one thing that I teach my guys, is that if you're going to throw up, then just throw up. Throw up and get on with the fight. Don't hold it in and worry, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. Just do it and move on. Get into the fight and do what you need to do. I say the same thing to everybody who's listening, that if you get into this battle, you need to just let your body do what it needs to do. If it needs to throw up, if you need to, just stop and cry for a second, do it, and then get back into the fight. Don't back out. Stay in the fight. It's something that we had to train our people with. I mean, one of the first things that we do with our guys when we get a new recruit, we put them through torture training. We take them out in the woods and we beat the hell out of them, and we tie them up, and we put them through absolute hell. Because if you cannot tolerate that, then you have no future with us.
Crazy stuff. Thanks, Khalid. So I'm going to address the question that we had set aside for Jeff, and then coming to you, Randy. And the question for Jeff was going to be to discuss the role of technology in reducing triage challenges. So the only technology really that you can use in this stuff that's going to maintain that tether back to home base is probably going to be satellite-based comms, because when they have cell phone blockers, they're also blocking an entire range of frequencies. It's not just the cell phone frequencies, and that takes out all your radios, whether they're encrypted, whether they're channel hopping, it doesn't matter, because everything is in these different blocks of frequencies. And it's easy to block frequencies at the end of the day. So that means that the only technology off the top of my head that's going to work really well would be satellite-based. Now, I don't know that a lot of our law enforcement officers even have satellite-based stuff unless they have a T-Mobile phone. If they have a T-Mobile phone, there is the potential, but they would have to have the presence of mind to turn the cell off, because if there's a fake tower and the stupid smartphone connects to the fake tower, it's not going to connect to the Starlink satellites. So in that case, you would have to turn off your cellular service. Then you would make the satellite connection and potentially be able to use your phone. If you have a Garmin InReach Mini and it's tethered to your phone, you would have connectivity. But I don't think there's any other piece of communications technology that would help there. I will say one thing for the AAR on this is that when we went in on the Osama bin Laden raid, and we took 2 choppers, of course, 1 chopper didn't make it out. A lot of people don't know this, but I've talked to Rob O'Neill in person on this topic a couple times. Every single person had a body cam on, and everybody who had a body cam on had a GPS recording device. So today, most law enforcement officers are on the Axon 3 or Axon 4 body cameras, and those cameras have built-in GPS. Where I'm going with this is the AAR, after we got bin Laden, was to take all of the recordings of the GPS locations, the specific times. They took that and then they fed it into a computer, and they did an animation in multiple different views. It looked like a video game, basically, of where everybody was, how it happened, the mistakes that were made, the things that were done right were made. So they were able to extract a ton of information out of that. So Randy, myself, I stress inoculate by training 4 or 5 days a week, usually 5, running and gunning. So, sprint, shoot a flurry, do push-ups, sprint, and do this nonstop. Band exercises, dumbbell exercises. It's pretty unsophisticated stuff that I do, but I do get a lot of shooting in with an elevated heart rate. What are your recommendations to make somebody's training better, especially law enforcement officers, that simulates that level of stress? Because we go back to Sun Tzu, right? Human beings never rise to the occasion. They follow their level of training. I want to hear a Green Beret's perspective on what type of training should be undertaken by law enforcement agents and officers in particular.
Well, they need to do the same kind of stress inoculation. It's why the military, it's why in the Army, when certainly in special operations, we did stress shoots, right? Because, you know, I know you've mentioned a couple times, and it's a great way if you want to feel the loss of your dexterity by putting your hands in the ice, right? It's an easy way to do it for a minute. You're not going to feel your hands. But here's the deal. Just like what you just mentioned, your heart rate isn't up though, is it? But there's another very important piece.
That's why you do it all together. You put your hands and feet in a bucket of ice, and you run and gun and lift weights and band exercises and beat the crap out of yourself.
Well, here's the deal, though. You know, it's just like most men our age, anyway, certainly in our youth, back when you could still have a fist fight on the school campus without getting in a whole lot of trouble or expelled, or somebody pulled out a gun and shot the other person. We used to duke it out with our fist.
Right.
And what, you know, people, it's like, oh, they like to train to do that, right? And then they get in a real fight, or they get in the real ring, and they find out real quick that they didn't train well enough. Because the fact is, when you're in the middle of the fight, everything's 100%. When's the last time you did training that you did everything you did leading into that at 100% level? Everything you could do max. When that adrenaline goes off and you're in the middle of the fight, that's how it is. Everything is 100%. So that last piece that I was talking about is your breath rate, because that's also, your breath rate is for up and down and aiming, right? Trigger squeeze and everything else is left and right. But your breathing is also a very crucial part in this, because if you actually get smoked where you are like breathing really heavy and you can't, you know what I mean? That you can't lower that down. Now think about if you had to shoot during that moment and be effective. Yep. Same thing with law enforcement, right? Because they're our first line of defense in this type of thing. And certainly police officers should be doing that, right? Because we're no longer in the 70s and 80s where, you know, it might be one little event and it lasted for an hour or 2 hours. You know, we still have SWAT teams that go out and they'll have to sit out there for 8 hours while there's a deal going, but they're not doing anything during that 8 hours, right? They're waiting until the negotiations fail and the people in charge say, okay, go take the house, because we're out of all options. Diplomacy's over. Now go take it. You have to simulate exactly how that's going to be, or how do you know you're going to be effective? And as we mentioned earlier, you don't get a second chance. You walk into that fight, certainly a gunfight that you're not prepared for, or now that you've had to do some physical activity and you're not in that good a shape and you're breathing heavy and your heart rate's through the roof. What was it you said? The SWAT team, there was like a 26-degree circle. Those are trained shooters, folks. If you're not a trained shooter, you're not even going to hit the target. Your spread's going to go out to 10 or 20 feet. And then you'll be like most.
Those are trained. They're trained snipers.
Well, that's right. They're trained snipers, so they shoot a lot. And it affected them that much. So you can imagine what it's going to do to the average person. They won't be able to hit the broadside of the barn. And it'll be like most civilian gunfights. Most people that are a civilian that actually get in a gunfight, unfortunately, they waste a whole magazine before they even hit anything.
Yeah.
And if you're up against a real shooter like these guys, you're not going to be reloading that second magazine. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So you touch on a whole other thing there, Randy, is that one, it's hard enough to shoot accurately when you're under stress. So your heart rate's elevated, you're sweating like a gerbil in Key West. You know, your hands, you've lost your fine motor abilities, et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole other level when people are dying and when people are shooting at you.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's hard to simulate that level of stress, although it can be done. I've seen it done. It's done at WAFT all the time. But nonetheless,
that's why we picked that, because, you know, the reality is you cannot simulate what that actual gunfight or what actual combat is. The best thing you can do is provide stress, however that is, including getting smoked, so that you can almost know what it's like, and it will help prepare you for that moment.
Well, I go one step further, and both of you can speak to this. So you've gone through all the stress inoculation. Let's say you do it on a frequent basis, extremely high level of stress. But how about shooting while you're on the run? That's now goes to another whole level.
That comes down to footwork.
Yeah.
You can't shoot and run if you don't have the right and the proper footwork.
And you can tell if somebody's trained just by their footwork, by the way.
For sure.
You can tell at what level that they're at.
There's a certain little walk or run that you see and you know immediately.
100%. So, Khalid, I'm going to have you do a wrap up on this, but I do want to mention one thing. So, Carl Cottle, our friend Carl Cottle, firearms expert, former law enforcement, SWAT, all that stuff, he gave me a bunch of drills and cadence so that my footwork was good, and then concentrating on keeping a reticle on a silhouette. And then JJ Morris comes along and says, well, I got something else for you to try. He said, instead of overthinking the whole situation, your barrel's moving like this, and a Mantis will measure that, right? A Mantis X10 will measure that. He said, every time, oh, there it is, it's on the silhouette, double tap the trigger. And then you're still going, you might be off a little bit. Oh, it's back on the silhouette, pull the trigger. He basically said, when the target is inside the reticle, pull the trigger. And that's my advice for you people out there to try it while you're training, by the way.
Squeeze the trigger.
Point being is that it actually works really, really good because you don't have to overthink stuff. So anyway, Khalid, I want to hand it over to you for the closing on this entire episode tonight as far as the main topic. Yes, we still have the conflicted question, whatnot to go through, but the main topic of the night, close the loop on that for our audience.
Well, look, the more you study different types of terror attacks, the more you can mentally get yourself ready for what's coming. We can explain this to you over and over and over and over and over again, but until you actually sit down and figure out how these things happened, you're not going to get mentally ready for it. Hotel Mumbai is a great movie to watch. It'll take you through what happened in Mumbai. Go through and watch some of the documentaries on what happened in India, what the battlefield was like in Iraq. Look at what the battlefield was like in Afghanistan. And I hate saying it, but study what they did. Because once you understand what they're going to do, you can mentally get ready for what you need to do.
And you can recognize
because you don't have, sorry?
I've just said you will also recognize it.
Yeah, you'll recognize it. Yeah. You don't have a simulator you can go through. You're not like us where we can go up into the mountains and fire as many bullets as we want and not get in trouble. So you've got to learn by watching. You've got to learn from understanding. Couple things I'll put out for you. When you are if you remember, so in the early episodes, I said your actual terrorists will stay in the house. They will not come out anywhere. They have a support network that runs for them. They're running electricians. They're running HVAC. They're doing all of that work. When they disappear, the attack is imminent. Then the attack is imminent because the only time support staff is going to disappear is when they're about ready to launch the attack. So keep an eye on that. And what are you looking for? Ages 18 to 30, Middle Eastern men, very specific. Now, this is very specific. Syrian, Iraqi, Pakistani, Somali. These are the four nationalities you're looking at very specifically, because these are the areas that we know have infiltrated into the U.S. There are reasons why I am worried about Chicago. There are reasons why I'm worried about Minnesota. There are reasons why I'm worried about certain places, because a lot of these specific immigrants have moved into those places.
Yes.
Now, you need to be careful to differentiate between the people that have been there for 15, 20 years and the people who've recently moved there. How do you know the difference? Look at mannerisms. Look at their behavior. Look at how they act when you come near them. People who have ill intentions will forcibly move themselves away from you. They will stop talking when you get close to them. Even if you're just walking past, they will stop talking.
Yeah.
These are things that set you off. When you set those things off, first thing you should do, tell the police. I've said this before, forget politically correct. I don't care if someone gets upset that you went, oh, I went to the police and said, there's this group of Muslims over there and they're talking. And then when I walk past them, they stop talking. Look, if they're talking in their native language, why would they stop talking when you walk past them? You don't understand the language they're talking in. So what would be the point of stopping? So keep an eye out for these things. Shifty behavior. People who only appear during prayer time and then disappear when prayer time is over and you never see them outside again. People who only move it at night. That's a big warning sign for us because they use the cover of dark to cover their physical appearance so they can't be recognized. Those are people you need to be careful of. These are the target people that we always mark off and say, if you read our assessment, we listed all these things out in the assessment as well. When it comes to the attacks actually happening, the most important thing is staying inside your head. Keep calm.
Yes.
The more you get out of control, the more you put your own life and your family's life at risk. As long as you stay calm, you can make conscious decisions. Conscious decisions are different than stressful decisions. Put yourself through the stress. Go climb a mountain. Go run a mountain. And then pull out a gun and fight. The way I started learning, I didn't start off with a gun. I started with short sticks. About this long. 4 feet long sticks. Where as soon as I would stop and I'd have a partner running with me, as soon as we'd stop, we'd take out sticks and we'd start fighting with sticks. That trained us to understand how our body reacts at that point in time. That helps us move from step 1 to step 2. When you move from a stick to a weapon, that gets your body ready for that. There is no golden bullet that I can give you on this. I've been through it. I understand it. I've walked through it. I've seen it actually happen. There is not a golden bullet. There's not a golden pill I can give you that this is what you need to do. You need to figure out your own mentality, your own situation, and work with that. Everyone is different. Everyone reacts differently, but get yourself ready.
Thanks, Khalid. So we've got to do the Carnival Hero of the Day.
Love it.
I feel like we got some official TV show going here.
All you need is John Madden.
Dude, man.
So the Carnival Hero of the Day, and Lord knows there's plenty of them that came from Vietnam. U.S. Marine Corps Lance Corporal Robert Gerald Tate was killed in action on September 19th, 1968 in Quang Tri Province, South Vietnam. Robert was 21 years old and from Livonia, Michigan. Weapons Platoon G Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. Remember Robert today. He's an American hero. So
Thank you for your sacrifice and your service.
yeah, I'm really happy that we have the opportunity to give some of these people some recognition after all of these years. I don't know why. It stokes me to be able to just say, hey, this is somebody, who died because of decisions made by our government. And
well, not only that, y'all should thank them, because even to this day, I mean, I meet a lot of Vietnam veterans that have, but I'll still come across them every now and then that have never been thanked for their service.
Yeah, wow. That's really sad. That's just really sad.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
Sad is the operative word there for sure. So
if you know one, go thank them tomorrow or tonight, as soon as possible.
Amen. So the reader submitted story of the day, I know y'all are going to be shocked, comes from Dale, the news machine.
He is. I don't think the guy sleeps, right?
I don't think so. I actually think there might be 3 people running his account.
Right.
It's not proven yet, but it's a theory that I have. 3 8-hour shifts a day. So I've noticed some subtle differences, from shift to shift there. But anyway, Dale is on our private signal chat with a bunch of other Guardians. He's not the only one that throws out a ton of, good information. Tim Smith, Dee Dee, Astro Mom, Roger Moore, he's been absent for a little bit, but I've been talking to him on the side. There are a bunch of people, and then there's our guys. So Khalid is constantly putting intel into the chat. It's an amazing source of information, put it that way. So this one from Dale, though, got my attention. Congressman Maxwell Frost, Democrat, Florida, doubles down on making out President Trump and conservatives to be Nazis, calling them dangerous and fascist. Fascism is here. Democrats are refusing to tone down the rhetoric. 36 seconds.
Donald Trump doesn't want a democracy. He wants a throne, and his cronies are clearing the way. The president and his lapdogs here in the United States Congress, the vice president, the FCC chair, the attorney general, secretary of state, and congressional Republicans are implementing a dangerous agenda to punish their opposition. Fascism is not on the way. It is here. The First Amendment is how generations of Americans, from civil rights activists to labor organizers, American worker, LGBTQ plus activists, have fought for progress, and it is our power.
So before
my heart rate is going up now, and I tell you what these politicians, whether it was about Charlie Kirk or continuing this, why does everybody else get fired and these people keep their jobs?
Yeah, well, I was going to say before you guys got fired up on this, I got one thing to say, and pardon my French, but this guy should stick to being a fucking toilet brush, because that's what he looks like. So go ahead, Cleet, if you got anything else you want to add to it, but fuck this guy, fuck the Democrat Party, fuck everybody who's talking shit about real loyal Americans. This is the problem right here. This right here.
If these guys could kill the First Amendment, they would do it. They wouldn't even hesitate to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
They did it during Charlie 19. They nuked all kinds of people from every platform you can imagine. They've already tried to do it. Sorry, but this clown and these clowns like this really piss me off. They're wrecking our fucking country. So anyway, let's move on to the conflict question.
Yeah.
Before my watch starts going nuts. All right. You hear a noise in the back of your house and you find about 12 orphans scavenging for food in your garbage cans. They appear to be kids under 6 or 7 years old. Taking them in would diminish your supply and timeline by 50%, and you aren't sure you can replenish your supplies once they run out. Plus, it would take manpower to watch over all of them, and you can spare little since everyone in your camp is constantly exhausted from hard work and rationed meals. Leaving these kids to their fates would mean their deaths or worse. How would you handle this situation? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, Randy, you go first.
I knew you were. Since Jeff wasn't here, I knew I was up, which I don't mind. I can go first every time. It doesn't matter to me. So the way I look at this, man, is that's my future little fire team and heavy squad right there. There's 2 of them. Really, you can't, I don't care who you are, man. You can't toss kids to the wind like that and know they're going to die, because guess what's going to happen to you right after that? There's a price to be paid for that, as we just talked about. You know what I mean? And there's a heavy price for children. So, and God favors them. So you better. And so what I say is you take them in and we train them, because that's our future of what's left of our tribe right there. Certainly since they're only 6 or 7 years old. Whatever bad habits are, we're going to get rid of quickly, and then we will train them up right. And at some point they will help us move the tribe forward. That's what I would do.
Yep. Fair enough. Good answer, Randy. Khalid.
Yeah, you can't abandon kids. I mean, the more you invest into a child, the more value they give you when they grow up. And when you kick them to the curb at this point, they're just going to go astray, and God forbid what happens to them afterwards, because they end up being used by people. And it's better that you take them in, and whatever you have, and you share it with them, and you give them the love and the training that they need, so they can carry the torch for the next generation.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Khalid. I appreciate that. Let me just pull something up here quickly that's relevant to what my answer is going to be. All right, here we go. So let me get
he's got
I have props.
You have props, man.
I have props tonight. We're going back to the
Oh,
days
yes.
of Oliver Twist. And we're putting these youngins to work just like they did during the Industrial Revolution. And they will grow up to be hardcore men. And that little guy there, in case you don't know what the scene is when he says more, please. So of course, I'm joking, but I would take the kids in. Absolutely. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're going to take the kids in because what tweaks me beyond the morality of it is that everybody's exhausted and tired. You don't have to work these kids like they're in Oliver Twist time, but they can certainly help out while they're learning, and that reduces the load on the adults. So hopefully they can come up for air, sort of thing, right? So not only is it the right thing to do, take the kids in, it's actually beneficial short, medium, and long term for the group. So I'm not too conflicted on that particular question, to be honest with you.
Well, we got one alibi here. White Dove just said it's POW and MIA day, and she wanted to say a prayer, which I'm sure she did, and we just recognize that for the men that didn't come back, and then certainly those that had to go through being a prisoner of war. Man, just brutal. But thank you for bringing that up. And absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate you catching that, Randy. So quick thank you to our guardians. Go to survivaldispatch.news and you can sign up for a free account. You get a bunch of information for free, but if you decide to be a paying member, $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, gets you 2.5 months for free. That money that we collect from that covers our overhead. So we spend about $4,500 a month now in software. Every time a new AI comes out, I have to try it and sign up for it. And then I'm up to 12 now, by the way. I have 12 AIs that I use that are paid for AIs, then the free ones above and beyond that. But your membership money means that we don't have to be punching clocks in a factory or wherever that we can work full time on this. And, Khalid and I, for example, work 7 days a week. There's no days off. This is the way it is, the way things are right now. Also, our sponsors, CCW Safe, best self-defense coverage bar none. If you have self-defense insurance, cancel it. It's not worth the paper it's written on. If you want to know more about that, just send me an email, support@survivaldispatch.com. I'll tell you all about it. And our premier sponsor, of course, Carnivalt. So carnivalt.com. You can see Randy and I both have hats on, and we're trying to get some to Khalid over in Pakistan as well.
Yep.
Well, we need to get Khalid over here or somewhere.
Well,
January, I'll be back.
All right.
Yeah. So as far as Carnival's concerned, this is freeze-dried meat, 100% American meat, no antibiotics, no mRNA, no bullshit in them, American ranchers, 25 plus year shelf life. Nobody else is doing it. It took an incredible amount of work for them to be able to accomplish what they've done. This bag here, by the way, they have single servings now. This bag had 6 servings in it. It weighed 6 ounces. When you rehydrate it, it's 1.5 pounds of sirloin. So with the single serves, you can take it with you when you go off grid, hiking, camping, hunting, fishing, overlanding, whatever the case may be. Reconstitutes very quickly, 5 to 10 minutes. You got fresh steak, but you also have super high protein. All proteins are not the same. So your soy, whey isolate crap, it's going to take 50, 60 grams of it to be the equivalent of 25 grams of this. So if you go
it doesn't taste the same by any stretch.
Yeah, not even close. That's actually a good point, Randy, is this comes unflavored so that you can flavor it however you want. And we've got a partnership that's just in the initial stages with Redmond Life and their salts, which are amazing. And you're probably going to get some samples with Carnival before too long. But nonetheless, it's an amazing product. It's got tons of uses. The people who own the company are our people. And that's more important than anything else. But the fact that even this bag is made in the U.S., O2 absorbers made in the U.S. These guys
they are resealable. They
are
resealable. I ate some of the pork today, and the rest of it's still in the bag on the shelf right now.
Yeah, and you can see, it's got the Ziploc piece in it.
And these aren't cheap packaging like you get from every other American product now. These are very good packaging. It's very good product.
They actually have new packaging, Randy. It just hit this week. So
hey,
they've got boxes. They got single serve units. But if you go to carnivalt.com, use the discount code EATMEAT. one word, just for future reference. Anytime you're asked for a discount code, there's never any spaces in it. It's always one word. Gets you 10% off the order. If you go over $99 on your order, you get free shipping as well. You never know what these guys may or may not throw in your delivery for a little surprise, kind of like Summit Racing does for their customers.
They do put in something, Chris. They do put in like a little giveaway. Like I got a different hat than this. I've got the mouse pad because I've gotten several orders. What else? I got the shirt. So they usually in a shipment, they put some little free gift for you.
And Randy paid for his orders, by the way. It's not like,
Yes.
you know, he's not getting compensated. The fact of the matter is it's great for stacking up for preps because you don't need refrigeration for it. But it's also great for all these other things. If you're a carnivore diet or you want real meat that's not glued together, I would encourage you, have a look at the videos showing chicken and now beef being glued together.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with the beef is even worse than the chicken is they're gluing it together to make it look like a T-bone or a ribeye and charging you a premium price per pound because it's disgusting. It's like gorilla snot holding chunks of meat. Here it is. It's disgusting stuff. So you've got the convenience factor. You've got high quality. You don't have to put it in, refrigerate it. You can flavor it your own way, and the list goes on and on and on and on. If you haven't seen Mike Glover's video on it, I would highly encourage you to do that. I'll put the link in the chat when we go to the final song tonight. But he impersonates his mother's accent, and I'm pretty sure he had to say like 3 Hail Marys to make sure he didn't go to hell after doing it. But I mean, I'm speculating at this point. But I don't know when we'll be back. If we follow the regular schedule, we'll be back Monday at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And the next episode in our long war series is going to be on the next piece of the collapse, which is the medical collapse, with trauma centers being targeted, supply chains being broken, medical systems collapsing. That's going to be the focus of the next one. But we may be back on Sunday to honor Charlie Kirk at his memorial, which is 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday. Haven't made the decision yet. It'll depend on what my workload looks like, and I'll do it by myself if nobody else is available. We're also closing out with a song from our good friend Jeff O'Donnell, who was our guest last night, and then I have another kick-ass video tomorrow night, or next time we're on, for Charlie Kirk. But this closing video is from our good friend Jeff O'Donnell, and it's another memorial honoring Charlie Kirk. So between now and the next time that we come back on, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
God bless America.
God
You're the
bless
man,
America.
Bruno.
And enjoy the closing.
The sun sets but leaves a glow, a fire in the sky. Charlie lit a torch for us, but we had to say goodbye. He showed us how to stand. He showed us how to fight. Now his voice has been taken, but his message still burns bright. We'll never forget Charlie. His name's a battle cry. The spark he left is burning. It'll never ever die. We'll rise up for the future. We'll carry on his flame. Charlie Kirk forever. We'll always say his name. He built a bridge where none would try. He made the weak feel strong. His faith was overflowing. proved him wrong. The winds are loud, the nights are cold, but still we'll carry through. Charlie showed us courage, and now we live that true. We'll never forget Charlie. His name's a battle cry. The spark he left is burning. It'll never ever die. We'll rise up for the future. We'll carry on his flame. Charlie Kirk forever. We'll always say his name. The fight's not over. The fight's not done. We are many. We are one. We'll never forget Charlie. His name's a battle cry. The spark he left is burning. It'll never ever die.